Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first official episode of Foxman Plays Kerbal Space Program. This is a game. It's kind of like a spacecraft simulator. Basically, you build spacecrafts and you launch them into space, and you do all sorts of cool stuff. You feel like Neil Armstrong and shit. Of course, I am Foxman, or Michael Fox, or Foxy Lady, or Fox Bro, or call me whatever the heck you want. It's all good. So in this episode, I am playing with version 0.15.2, and you might see some previous episodes which I recorded, but they were with version 0.13, and I might upload them just to show you guys because I did land on Mun. However, this with the update, it's a little bit different. I don't know if it's trickier or not. But anyways, it's different. So I'm giving this a fresh start here. So if you see any other episodes that I do upload previously, that's not official with this Foxman Plays. That's just to show that I landed on Mun. So we're gonna try and do that again in this episode. But just to break it down, there are a couple changes in this version of the game. They've added a space plane hangar, so we can build space planes. That's kind of cool. They have a tracking station where we can track all the shit we've got in orbit that we've launched. That's cool as well. Of course, over here is just the launching pad, and then here's the vehicle assembly building for not space planes, pretty much tall rockets and all that other good stuff. So we're gonna go in here, and we're gonna build a rocket, and I'm gonna build one that's kind of similar to what I've built previously in 0.13, just to see how it works in this version. I will be making a couple tweaks again, so if for what you see in the previous kind of lost episodes of this, hopefully it will be a little better, but we'll see. So I'm gonna start with just the command pod Mark 1. Pretty standard, and we're gonna accept that. It doesn't have a huge impact tolerance compared to some of the other guys, but we want to have absolute control anyways. We don't want to have to rely on a higher impact tolerance if we don't have to. So let's just move this sucker right up here, give us a little more room to work with. And first things first, before I forget, is actually, let me go over here. We need to give this sucker a name. So I'm going to call it Foxtasy Mark 1. And Foxtasy is a play on, oopsies, I missed an S. Obviously my name in there, Fox. And the C is like Odyssey, Foxtasy, Odyssey. 2001 A Space Odyssey, great film, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Like one of my favorites of all time. Go watch it if you like kind of slower paced, awesome movies, like critically acclaimed. I think you some people hate it, some people love it. I don't know. Just don't hurt me if you don't like it. If you go and watch it, based on what I've said here. Anyways, so let me save that, just in case. And now we need safety first. Always safety first. Parachute. Also makes it a little more aerodynamic, which is nice. And then what I'm going to add is where did I put that? I didn't put it anywhere, actually. Where did they put it? A stack decoupler. So eventually, this will be the last eventual stage of the spacecraft. So we've got a stack decoupler. Now what I want to add is an RCS fuel tank. And what this does is, this is fuel for the RCS thrusters, which you'll see in a tiny bit. We'll get to that. So I'm just putting that there for now. And then we also need a SAS module. I want an advanced one because the SAS module built into the pod is really not meant for keeping the stability for the rest of the ship. It's just for the pod. So you can't rely on that. So we're going to implement an advanced SAS module standalone. And that'll just, basically, it's a stability system. Keeps the ship in position. Very useful both for when we're getting to space and once we are in space. So, there's that, and now I need some fuel tanks. And there's a lot of different ones we can look at. There's jet fuel, which is good for the kind of like space planes. We have liquid fuel, and there's even solid fuel boosters. So, But again, keeping with the build in previous play of this game that I've done, I'm gonna go with the liquid fuel. And there's a half size and a full size. Theoretically, I mean, in here the capacity is half and the total mass is half, but actually, surface area to volume ratio in real life should be worse. For this, there's more surface area than there is volume, so I don't think they actually take that into account this game. Maybe they do. I hope they do. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong, but I don't know. It's just something kind of nerdy. And I'm going to put on 4. Yeah, let's do 4. 4 fuel tanks. We'll see how that works. And let me add on an engine. I'm going to go with the one which has slightly less thrust, 175 versus 200. The reason for that is that this one actually has thrust vectoring. So we lose a bit of thrust, but we gain a bit of control because the other version does not have thrust vectoring. So there's that. Let me just save it there while we're there. And now I need to work in the RCS thrusters. Where did those? Oh, they're right here. And we want to, for this, actually, our first use of the symmetry tool, snap to angle 2, that's useful. And this basically, we have one here, but it's actually, we set the symmetry tool to be quarter, or 90 degrees, so there's going to be 4 of them. They'll set them at 90 degrees apart, which is cool. So I'm going to put them here. Actually, let me think about this. I might want them more towards the center of mass. No, it's okay. I've put them up on this top half. Should be fine, to be honest. For controlling something this size, it's not a big deal. And of course, with those, now we need the fuel ducts. These are external. So basically, they route the fuel from this RCS fuel cell that we added. This fuel tank. So they'll route it from here. So we'll click here. And to the actual thrusters, because the thrusters need some fuel. So pop that on, and there you can see we added 4. Everything's nice and symmetrical. I love it. It makes me all happy inside. So there's that. I'm not going to worry about a lot of these extra components yet, not for this build anyways. And what do we want to do now? Now we actually need something. This will work. This will get off the ground. I've done previous tests. We could actually add one more fuel cell and it should get off the ground slowly, because we're adding a lot of mass, but we're not increasing the thrust power. We're just increasing the longevity of the thrust or the ignition. So something that can take into consideration. Really, this is built for space travel, not for escaping Earth. Kerbin. I'm going to make a lot of incorrect references to Earth. It's like Earth, but it's not Earth. It's called Kerbin. That's the planet. And so now we want to add, where are our radial decouplers? We have 2 types of decouplers. The one's a stack decoupler, which we already have up here, which will basically disconnect the pod, from everything below, including the decoupler. These radial ones you can put on the side, and then they'll detach anything you have attached to them. So you'll see in a second what I mean. Where do I want to put this? I'll put this guy right there on the yellow line. That's nice. And now we need some more fuel cells. Again, I'm going with the full fuel tank, liquid fuel. And we'll put this guy right around there is okay. That looks nice and secure, symmetrical. And now we need to add some more. I'm going to do a stack of 4 again for here. Boom, and 1 more. And now we need to add some engines, and I'm going to go with the one with more thrust now without the vectoring. I don't think vectoring is going to be so important. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but the purpose of these is to help us escape Earth's or Kerbin's orbit, gravity and all that crap. So there's those, and I'm going to add 1 more set, which will really help us escape. Just, and you'll see kind of my special idea. Where's my radial decouplers? Here we go. I'll put these guys like so. Yep, that looks good. And now we'll get 1 and 1 more. So we're only going 2. This is to reduce the mass, but we're going to have, again, 4 more thrusters. So you gotta do the math on this. And as well, they're lower because they're the outermost, and we want a stable base. If it's too narrow and tall, then it'll topple over on the launch pad, and we don't want that. So that's looking pretty decent. I don't know. Maybe you think it looks silly and dumb, but hey, proof is in the pudding. All right. So now we have one last very important thing to do. Actually, there's another important thing to do, but struts. Struts are important to keep these things from wobbling. You know, if you do the struts, it keeps them nice and together. And I've got a little trick to placing these. I see a lot of other people place them and they get really frustrated. You see how there's kind of like a peak, I guess, with this where we're attaching it. You want to attach it on the peak or on the inside of the peak if you're moving it to the right, or on the peak or on the other inside of the peak if you're moving it the strut to the left. You understand what I'm saying? Because you can't move these struts through metal. So watch, if I try and put it on this side and attach it, it doesn't work. It won't work. So that's why that happens. So oopsies. Where did that sucker go? So just something to keep in mind if you're building your own. And I'll put one down there, attach it there. So, and you can see, of course, we've got the symmetry tool, so it applies it to all sides. So there's that, and then I want some for this big secondary stage. So again, keep in mind where we're putting them. And I think I'll do 3, total of 3, just to keep it nice and tight. We like it tight, right? I do anyways. There we go. And there we go. So, struts, very important because they will keep our thing nice and structurally sound. So I'm going to save that again. And we have one last thing to do, which is to make sure all our stages are correct. So, which they are not. I want all 8 of these. Well, technically we have 9 thrusters, but I want these bottom 8, the tertiary and the secondaries, all going at the same time. So we need to make sure that they're all in the same stage, which is the first stage. And technically it says 6. It does a countdown, so 0 is the last stage that you want to initiate. So they're all there, and we want these struts. Struts can't be their own stage because you can't really do anything to activate them or deactivate them. And then we have these radial decouplers. So this will blast off, you'll see, and then when these run out of fuel, they'll detach. And then these guys will keep going because they have more fuel, and then eventually they'll detach. And then we'll be left with this rocket, and it'll blast off. And then eventually this will decouple. And that's all good. So it looks like everything's in working order. I say we give this puppy a run and see how it fares. It's gonna take a couple seconds, and I apologize in advance. It's gonna be a little laggy when we're launching this sucker. However, once we get into space, it gets all fixed up, and it is nighttime. That's nice. So first, turn on SAS. There we go. We're gonna put the throttle up a bit, not all the way. Actually, sorry, got a little greedy there. And 3, 2, 1, blast off. Here we go. Again, it's a little laggy, and the reason for that is I'm kind of in the transition, if you haven't heard already, of a new superior PC. But I'm too impatient I can't wait to play this game, so that's why I'm doing it here. But again, the lagginess honestly doesn't kill the game here. We're just going in a straight line. If you're not going in a straight line, you're pretty much screwed over anyways. So, that's, just so you know. Eventually, the lagginess will be gone. And once I switch over later this week to my new PC, I'm so super excited. And actually, this is a different element of the game compared to 0.13. You always launch at the same time, so the moon or mun was always in the same spot. And so that changes things. We're here, how do I want to say? I mean, you will get used to launching and aiming for a certain spot every single time, but now we have to accommodate for it. So actually, we'll see if I'll be successful or not, because this is different. I've never launched at nighttime, so that's kind of a nice feature of the updated version of the game. Things are going pretty smoothly though, other than the lag. I mean, in terms of control, look at our little dial down here. We're pretty much spot on. We're going straight up, which is exactly what we want. We don't want to veer off in one direction. Very, very stable machine. Very little wobble. That's the SAS module. You can see up here, the SAS module is it's under heavy workload right now. There's a lot for just this one SAS module to do, but it's within its realm of capabilities, so that's cool. And now we've gone through one set of fuel cells, so we've got a second one, and then we're going to decouple. Things are going well still. We're 16 kilometers above the surface of Kerbin, 300 meters per second. And what was I going to say? Oh yes, kilometers. I'm going to be referencing them a lot in this game because, well, they use meters, which convert to kilometers pretty easily. 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer. However, for you Yankee Doodles in your imperial system or whatever, using your miles per hour, trying to think, 1.6 kilometers equals 1 mile. So just to help you do a little conversion on the fly, give you estimates. Things are we're going. Our fuel. Oh, my bad. I got distracted, and that slowed us down a bit. That was a big mistake. We ran out of fuel on those, which meant it was dead weight, and I didn't decouple them for quite a while. So, again, it's not the end of the world, but for this spacecraft, but it's not optimal. So that could have a big impact though later. It's kind of hard to tell. But we're climbing. We're increasing our speed, our velocity, and I need to take a mid-launch celebratory drink. It's good stuff. Ooh. And we're climbing. The Kerbals. What's his name? Furgard, Sigri, and Macvin. I don't know. Furgard looks pretty happy. These other two chumps look a little scared, to be honest. Alright, we're getting there. We have one more set of fuel cells on these secondary rockets before we decouple. And should I increase the speed a bit? See, it's barely, even with the speed, the time warp, which is an element of the game, I'm not sure if you're aware of, it is barely wobbling. This is good. We've built a pretty aerodynamic spacecraft. I am happy with this. We're not overheating. Actually, I guess that's something I could do. I could put the throttle up a bit, just make this go a little faster. It's starting to overheat now, though. I guess I should kick it back a bit. There we go. Decouple, and boom. That's poetic. Now you can actually see the frame rate is increased quite a bit. So I apologize for that, but it doesn't break the game, really, when you're just sitting, going in a straight line. Now we're nearly 2 kilometers a second, over 230 kilometers above Kerbin's surface. So let's I'm gonna kick back on the fuel a tiny bit just to save some. Let's check our orbit. Mun is over there, so we're gonna have to do a hard we're gonna, or it's orbiting in this screen, it's gonna look like Mun is coming straight down. So we want to intercept that. We don't want to aim for it. We want to aim ahead of where it's going. So to do that, I'm gonna turn off SAS, turn on RCS, because SAS will fight against the, where do we go? Okay. There we go. We're going. You got to be careful. This is actually surprisingly hard. It takes a lot of practice to get right. So I'm just letting it float down now in the direction, and boom. Turning on SAS again, and oopsies. Turning off the RCS. And now I'm a bit crooked, and you can see our velocity is dropping because we're kind of basically traveling over Kerbin at this point. This might be a mistake. We might have gone too soon, but either way, I'm going to fix our... There we go. This is the direction I want to aim it. I don't want to get too far off course. I think that should be okay. Again, we're dropping again, but I'm going to increase our speed, our time, and we should pick up velocity soon. I'm going to increase the throttle, full throttle. And let's check out our orbit. It should be shifting over. Here we go. This is what we want. It's shifting over to the left. However, I don't think we're going to get there in time. It's hard to tell, to be honest, this where this is going to go at this point. We might have to adjust later. But let's just, hey, we'll deal with it as it comes. Now you can see where our velocity is increasing again. That is good. Let me drop that back a bit. I don't want to overheat. And here we go. You see our orbit is changing, and we might actually achieve a full orbit around Kerbin, which is ideal. There we go. That's what Mikey likes to see. Okay, kick that into high gear. There we go. This is kind of different than some of the orbits. Wow. We're this is okay. I can deal with this. There we go. It's finally starting to elongate. Okay, I'm going to cut the fuel bit and let me just do the time. I don't want to overshoot. And just so you know, to check the orbit, let me zoom in a bit. You want our little kind of cyan bluish line to line up with the gray line of Mun, the orbit. So the closer they line up, that means the more on target you are. That's good. We're pretty much on target. Now we just gotta increase the juice a little more. So let me give that a go. We can give it a little more juice. Slowly getting out there. Don't want to rush it too much. It's easier to add more throttle and cut it than to come back. All right, keep going. Keep going. Pretty much spot on so far. Okay, I'm gonna start to cut it. Now let me just give it a little more. Bit by bit, almost there. Little more again. I'm gonna give it like the touches more. There we go. That's pretty much spot on. You cannot ask for a better, like I could not be like, oh, you gotta do better than that, son. That's almost perfect. A little tiniest bit off, but we're so close. Doesn't matter because Mun's gravity will be strong enough at that point. It'll pull us right in. Wow. And even if we miss it, we've got our orbit around the back of Kerbin. So, because sometimes your orbit will extend out here, but then when it comes back, it'll go right through Kerbin, which means you're just going to have to crash land on it. Not ideal if you miss. This way we can just keep going and going and going until we finally meet up with Mun. So, that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to increase the time warp just to speed things up a bit because, I've got other things to do today. And there we go. Got a little laggy for a second. I don't think we're going to meet it. We're going to beat it. Everybody beat it. Whip it out and beat it. This is okay. It's fine. This is exactly why we've achieved this orbit around Kerbin. Let me speed this up a little more. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Wow, I shouldn't have sped that up so much. But this is okay. You can see we have a new kind of orbit around Kerbin, but Mun is starting to actually pull us in. I didn't expect it to have that stronger gravity. And what it's doing is it's not pulling us in, it's pulling us around it. It's going to sling us around and sling us off into space, which is definitely not what we want. So we have to adjust our trajectory a little bit, which isn't too difficult to do. So let's just get to this view. And so if I'm looking at this, Mun is on the left side of where we are being pulled. So that means if I turn off SAS, turn on RCS, I want to aim it kind of like this way to counteract. Turn on, let me do a little more. We'll see how that fares. Turn off RCS. We got SAS back on to keep it in position, and let's just put on the throttle. And you can see, actually, it's already starting to slowly pull in, I think. Yep. Let me put that to normal time. And you can see it's changing the orbit around Kerbin too. Shit is fucked up. I don't know exactly what is going on there, but that's okay. Maybe I'm doing this slightly wrong. It does look like it's slowly, the blue line is coming in a bit, but not as fast as I would like. Oh shit, we're almost out of fuel. Let me turn off the throttle for a second. Okay, and go this way. Just see what happens there. Turn on the throttle again. It's doing something. I honestly don't know why this isn't quite working. This is funky. Let's punch it up a bit. It is slowly pulling us in. That's good. We're going all the way. We're not going to have enough fuel to land, but we might be able to crash right into Mun, which is okay with me, to be honest. We're almost out of fuel though. There's got to be a better way. I'm going to cut the throttle. There's got to be a better direction to go. I'm just going to let it pull us a bit closer for now, actually, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so it's going to pull us around the left, so we want to go to the right. Oh, because everything's like all up and crazy in space. So I was going the wrong direction. That was just me being impatient again. So we want to go this way with our remaining fuel. This is a big boo-boo. I'm sorry. That should work. Let's boost that sucker. It is working, but I don't know if we're gonna have enough fuel to actually crash in. It's probably just gonna sling us off into the depths of space. Come on, we want to kill everything. Okay, we're out of fuel. I'm gonna detach there. Maybe that might change things a bit. Darn it. This has not been what I wanted it to be. I wanted to kill these Kerbals. Oh man, look at that shit. Alright. Let's go back to this view and let's just speed things up. Let's look at, yep, we're gonna skim right over it. Oh, I want to zoom out a bit. This is messed up. There we go. You can't even see that shit now. Here we go. Let's zoom in a bit. There's our old part of our ship. The old rockets. Can we see Kerbin from here? We can see the fucking sun. It's bright as shit. Somebody close the blinds. Man. I really wanted to crash into Mun. Okay, whatever. Just no biggie. There we go. Let's see what happens now. I think we're going to be pulled into the orbit of, yeah, of the actual sun. Oh, there's our old debris. And let me zoom in a bit. So there's Kerbin's orbit around the sun, and this is our orbit. So actually, what is a possibility is that these orbits kind of cross paths right around here, sort of. Actually, for quite a bit, quite a while. So all this section, it's probably quite likely that Kerbin would pull us back into its orbit once we come for full circle. But that's going to take several days, and that's not the point of the mission that I had. It was just to crash into Mun at the very least. So I guess that's gonna be it for this episode. I think we're gonna call it quits. So let me just go to end the flight. Yes, I want to end the flight. We could do more with it, but I'm not eager to. And let's look at our stats. Total mission 8 days, 4 hours, 56 minutes, 44 seconds. Some pretty beefy speeds achieved. Holy, almost 10 kilometers a second. It's intense. 3 Gs is the most. That's pretty tame. That's like a roller coaster. And pretty basic. So let's look at the tracking station. Actually, check that out. I don't know what's going on with this little texting. I don't know if it's my version of the game is all messed up, but it's supposed to show us. There, yep, there we go. There's some debris. So it keeps track of all the shit we put in space. There's that from the. There's 2 bits of debris because I did a test previously. I just launched the sucker into space with I just put on full throttle, so that's why that's there. That's cool, I guess. I like it. Alright, that's gonna have to do it for this episode of Kerbal Space Program. What I'm gonna do, just to show you guys my efforts previously, I mentioned that I had a couple videos I made of me playing Kerbal with the older version of the game, and I did successfully land on Mun. So I think I'm gonna just quickly splice up part of that video just to show you that hey, I did it. You know, I'm not talking out of my ass. I know what I'm doing to some extent. And anyway, so I'll link to that, and of course you'll be able to see me in the further future episodes, of this official Let's Play, Foxman Plays Kerbal Space Program, where I will hopefully land on Mun and other heavenly bodies. So until I do that, I will have to bid you farewell, and we'll see what happens in the next episode. Peace out, everyone.